Their physical life is the real life. In actuality, the spiritual realm is the real life. A soul being will spend more time in the spiritual realm than they will spend in the physical realm. When you have an incarnation and you pass, you go into the spirit world. There's a ghost zone, then there's the spirit world beyond the ghost zone. And you can spend thousands of years in the spiritual realm. Then you will come back into a physical incarnation. So the physical incarnation is more like the dream, and the spiritual realm is more like the reality. And when you're going to the spiritual realm, you can pick and choose incarnations. So I may have this incarnation right now. At the time that I'm ready for a transformation and a change back into the spiritual realm, I can choose another incarnation that may appear to be in the 1500s or appear to be 30,000 years ago. The past and the future are really mean nothing. That's just a linear perspective that humans have on Earth. So, I go back into the spiritual realm, and I say, well, that was an interesting lifetime. Now I would like to experience a life in ancient Egypt with the insights from the life I had in 2018. And that's completely acceptable in the spiritual realm. You can pick and choose these incarnations. So the spiritual realm is the real world. That's where everybody resides. That's where a soul being will spend the majority of their time. And so you can stay in the spiritual realm for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, come back into the physical realm, go back in the spiritual realm. You can stay there one day and come back, or you can stay there another thousands and thousands of years. And so when people incarnate into the Earth game, there's certain things that they waver, that they give up. There's certain insights and perspectives they give up. And that's what makes the Earth game interesting. If people incarnate it, you lower your frequency to a certain degree. Then you incarnate. The child will be in the mother's womb for a certain amount of weeks, and then the spirit, the soul being, will choose that life. They'll say, okay, this looks interesting, these are the parents, this is the location it's going to happen at, and they work it out in the spiritual realm. Then they choose that incarnation. And so then there will be certain things within their life, certain themes that they will want to participate in for spiritual development, to take back with them into the spirit world. And so a lot of people give up, certain intuitions, certain insights. In the spiritual realm, instant manifestation is there. If you want to live in a certain type of house or a certain type of experience or go into a certain type of dimension in the spiritual realm, you can do it pretty much instantaneously. In the physical world, it takes more time for these manifestations to occur. And that's all part of the agreement. It's all agreed upon to some level. And so certain things that happen, certain people you meet, certain places you go, to some degree, it's agreed upon. And so that's one of the biggest things that people on Earth say, well, I want more insight, I want more spirituality. There's nothing less spiritual about having the physical incarnation on Earth. It's all spiritual. It's just you decided to limit yourself to some degree. It's like a game. It's pretty much like a game to some degree. I mean, it's serious, it's real, but it's considered a game from the spiritual perspective. And so people now on Earth say, well, I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble with the things I'm working on, my job, my career, the family life, schools, colleges, my social well-being, and I want spiritual insights. So dream state is one way to get that. Other ways to get it is you can go to an astrologist. You can go to a numerologist. Astrology and numerology is a fencing around the reality. When it comes to people and events, astrologically speaking, there's protocol and certain things that happen. And that's the fencing around the reality. Astrology and numerology. And so channeling is another thing you can use to discover more about your reality from a spiritual, metaphysical perspective. You can say, okay, what does this have to do with my life? I want spiritual insight. And so you may come to a channeler. And a channeler, depending on their intuitive ability, they can give you specific details on what things mean. They can discover for you things that happened. If you didn't have the insight to figure it out, they can help you figure it out for you. Certain people who channel provide certain insights depending on the being they connect with. Now, I'm very open to extraterrestrials and interdimensional type beings. So I have an awareness that here on Earth, you have humans, but then there's other beings who are terrestrial to the Earth that are here with me. So I may say, okay, there's a species considered Earth reptilians or Naga reptilians. And I know these entities exist. They may not be walking down the street in full regalia, looking like a lizard being, but that doesn't mean they're not here. They exist on a reality slightly above humans. But then they can appear if they would like to appear, but within their own world, they have certain rules and protocols and things they do. They don't like to interfere. They can't interfere directly with humans as you would think. From time to time they do, if it concerns them greatly, but usually they won't, unless the person is specifically looking for that. The more open the person is, the more they will receive. A lot of the ancient indigenous cultures throughout the Americas spoke about these beings. You can go over to the jungles of Africa, and people are well aware of them. Especially in Asia, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos. Matter of fact, even in the, not Laotian, but in the Thai zodiac, it's not a dragon, but a Naga being. But even the dragons were considered to be these serpent-type creatures. I think it was said that one of the emperors of China could instantly manifest himself to look like a dragon-type being. And so, these entities are here, and a lot of their lives consists going into inner Earth. They have realms, they go into inner Earth, and a human may not necessarily be able to stumble across it. If we were to go to underground caverns and underground civilizations, because they exist in a reality slightly above ours, sometimes they can sort of mask it in a way to where we wouldn't be able to see it as such. But some people can. Some people will have that ability to come across these entities like that. So I may say, okay, I know the Naga exist. The Naga are real. The Earth reptilians are here. So what I would like to do is I would like to connect with one of these beings for the purposes of exchanging information, maybe some sort of like relationship, some sort of spiritual guidance, some sort of friendship. There's different sorts, just like humans, there's different sorts of people. There's some Earth reptilians who really don't view humans as it's irrelevant. Human life is irrelevant to them. They have other things that they're involved with. Some of them look to humans to say, well, we can sort of manipulate humans in some sort of way. Others of them are very hopeful for humanity. They exist more on what you call a higher frequency, like you say, love and light. Like you sit there and say, I am the love and the light. I am the love and the light. Or we are in the light. We are in the light. We are in the light. These are mantras. And when you say these mantras, it raises your frequency. It raises your energy. So you get out of the lower chakra. You get out of the fear, survival, anger, hatred. You get more out of that, and you get into more of a frequency that's heart-centered, going up to your intuitive abilities, the throat chakra, the third eye, the crown chakra. And so the entities that exist within that reality, now they're more able to perceive you because now you're more able to perceive them. And they may say, well, okay, we have somebody here who is open to our existence. This person is looking for truth. This person is interested in a higher spiritual quality of life. Well, this is sort of like maybe like a guardianship type thing. Why don't we interact with this being to some degree, spiritually watch over him or her. If they're open to communicating with us, we can give them insight through dreams or through channeling. And I just may say, okay, now I want to channel this entity, or I want to channel this group collective of entities. And so it takes about 15 minutes to structure the neural structure of your brain, the crystallization within your brain. After about 15 minutes of deciding that's what you really want to do, like you can meditate on it, now your brain already has everything it needs to connect with these beings openly. It doesn't mean you'll automatically start channeling them unless you really try. But now throughout your life, wherever you go, this energy will be looking for you because you've conditioned your brain to be open to it. And so now the energy will be coming into your life. That's one of the, that's like the first laws of universal law. What you put out is what you get back. So I'm putting that energy out. Now it's going to come back into my life. Karma, you reap what you sow, sort of thing. So, and it depends on the information you ask for. So I may go into a meditative state and ask one of these entities. I may tell them, I'm looking for something. There's something I'm looking for, or there's a specific experience I want, or there's a specific type of person I want to meet, or give me perspectives in my life so I can better get a grasp on my reality and what's happening around me. And in a meditative state, you can reach that information. That entity is at a certain frequency. You've now changed your frequency to match that entity's frequency, and so now it's a wavelength. It's like a radio. Like if you have a radio, I don't have one next to me. I wish I did right now. But if you have a radio, you can tune the radio to any station you want. Do I want to listen to rock? Do I want to listen to classical music? Do I want to listen to country music? Do I want to listen to hip hop? Do I want to listen to pop? Those are things I can tune my radio to lock in with. I can't see the radio waves. I don't have any proof. I just know what's coming out of the radio. And so there's all sorts of energetic waves going through all the time. I can't see them visually, but I know they're there. Sometimes you can see aura on people though. So to some degree you can see energy within the ether around you, like what you consider hyperspace. But okay, so you match your frequency with this entity's frequency. And the more you connect with the entity, the stronger it gets. Now there's a lot of people who have concerns like of demonic possession or anything like that. I guess all those are possibilities. I don't think any entity can actually possess somebody. I think what it is somebody just matches their frequency so close to that being, they take on the characteristics of that being. So it depends on what your intention is. My intention wouldn't be to do the acts of somebody that's on that frequency, to cause mayhem or deceive people or trick people and to do harm. That's not what I'm out in the world looking to do. That's not my accomplishment. My accomplishment is vice versa. So it would be very, very irrelevant for me to build with another being on that level. It wouldn't work. That being would look at me and say, wait a minute, his frequency is not co-created with my frequency. There's nothing there. We can't build together. There's nothing productive there to go on. So it would be for another entity who's on the same wavelength as me to build with. And so that's more how universal law works and that type of principle works. So in its intention too, what are you looking for the information for? What are you going to do with this information? It all plays a part. So again, and then one of the things is this. And when you get into channeling, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to contact, a really high group of beings. I'm going to contact these beings over here and these beings. The information you get is only going to be what you can process. So you might contact a being who is at a lower density or somehow, it's all the same. It's all density. But you might contact a being from what you perceive to be less than another being, and that's not how it works. But I guess humans have a tendency to look at things like that. This person's above this person, yada yada. But you can contact a certain being. You're not going to get more information than what you can process yourself. So if I'm looking to get information on quantum physics or to do some really difficult calculus problem or whatever, the information will come through only as I can perceive it. You may get answers, but you can get answers that are really far out there, and you didn't come up with them, that this being helped you do it. That happens all the time. But the processing of the energy is only going to be what the channel can do. So I speak English. I don't speak Greek. I don't speak Arabic. I don't speak Chinese. I don't speak Laotian. I don't speak any of these languages. So I cannot decipher the information into another language. I can only use it for what's appropriate for me, for English. And so a lot of people will say, a channel, speak in a language and prove it. I've never seen anybody do that. I've been looking at channeling for many years. I've never seen anybody break down an energy into a different language. It's possible, though. I guess that, anything's possible. I wouldn't discredit it and say it can't happen, but maybe somebody can say some ancient language. I guess it all depends, the possibilities are endless. But okay, now that's, and so the Naga. Let me break down again the Naga reptilians. The Naga reptilians are a species that were created from a reptilian that already existed. You have Earth reptilians, which already exist. There's a group called the Ancient Reptilians that exists on a 6th density. They came to the Earth reptilian and then created the Naga, a separate species. Okay. Now the Ancient Reptilians are interesting. The Ancient Reptilians are said to be the oldest race within the universe. And the Ancient Reptilians are what you call a 6th density. A 6th density. They go about as high as most Ancient Reptilians, not all of them, but the majority of them will look to go as high as they can to 7th density without reaching 7th density. Once you get to 7th density, there is no more physical quality. As you go up in density, you lose more, you get more quasi-physical. More quasi-physical. And so your physicality changes. That's why when somebody says, I seen an angel, and it looked like I could put my hand through it, or I seen an angel, and it was, the density, it was lighter. It's not as physicalized as somebody on a lower density is. So these Ancient Reptilians, they look to get as close as they can to the 7th density without actually going into 7th density because they don't want to lose their physicality. So a lot of people will say that, there's stereotypes like, the Ancient Reptilians, this is involved in some sort of black magic or negativity. From my perspective, it looks more like these beings are a little bit fearful or a little bit concerned with losing their physicality. They want to have some physicality there. And so they get as close as they can to 7th density, and then they are involved with some sort of lower vibrational activity, what you can perceive as negativity, orchestrate negative events, doing things like that, so they can keep their density down a little bit from going up, so they can keep their vibration low. They're saying, I don't want to leave the physical plane, but I want to get as close as I can so I can do the instant manifestations, so I can network through the matrix how I want to. But if I go into 7th density, I can't do that stuff anymore. So let me get as close as I can, and then at the same time orchestrate things that may keep my vibration low enough from reaching up. So that's kind of the whole thing to it. So now again, there are people out there who have channeled Ancient Reptilians. The Ancient Reptilians, there's like about 5% of the Ancient Reptilian species that is co-creative with humans, meaning they're looking to create some sort of bond with humans, to exchange information to humans in a way that's helpful for humans and any creature out there. They're not what you call a segregative type lifestyle. Like what you call positive energy is integrative. It doesn't have as much restrictions. A segregative energy is how it sounds, is segregative. It doesn't like to interact with multiple different people, multiple different groups openly. So the more higher your frequency is, you're more open to more people and more things because you don't have that disconnection. You feel that all people and all things are more of a reflection of yourself. The more you are on the other side, you feel that these people are different from you. There's a disconnection. This person's different from me. They're way different from me. They're not like me. They're a separate entity of me. Maybe they're trying to harm me or do something to me. Maybe I can get over on them. That's a segregative type of mentality, and so that's more of like the a fear-based type of more survival mode type of perspective. And so those types of entity that's operating that type of frequency, it has a whole different philosophy of life, and it may not want to co-create with a being that's on a different higher frequency than it or whatever. So when you get over more into the integrative energy, you're more open to communicating with different types of frequencies, different types of energies. It's more of like a holistic approach. Okay, so channeling. Getting back to channeling. Now the channeling that I do, again, is I'm looking to develop more psychic ability and looking more to discover my themes and help others with their themes. Like one of the first things I like to do is do a free aura reading. Do a free chakra reading and free aura reading for people and determine where is your energy state at? What chakra are you working on? Are you working on the root chakra? Are you working the fifth chakra, the throat chakra? Is that a chakra? Are you working on expressing truth? I did a free chakra reading for somebody not that long ago, and I found out that he in fact was working on his fifth chakra. And when I first started speaking to him, that's when I went like this, and I was taking his energy in. And that's the first thing I came up with was the fifth chakra. And it turned out that I was right. All the details he gave me about what had been going on in his life, the things he was going through, it was meant for him to express the truth. And as the more you express your truth, that's putting an energy out. That's putting an energy out into the world. You're projecting an energy out into the world. And as you project that energy, it will open up other chakras. It'll open up your third eye, it'll open up your crown chakra. So working one chakra will open up the other chakras. So if I'm working my first chakra, the root chakra, it can open up any other chakra more and more and more. And so that's one of the things I want to do with people is help them discover more. Like before you really get into channeling and asking for answers, where is your own energy state at? Where are you at energetically as a being? What are you working at? What types of themes, what types of things are you looking to play out in your life? And then sometimes I get like intuitive insight. I can just be sitting there talking to somebody, and I'm not really sure where it comes from, but it'll be really deep intuitive information. Like I can look at somebody, or I can look at a situation, and if I look at it long enough, I can start getting great insight into it. I'm not really sure. I guess the proper term would be like instant download or something. I just like information will just start coming into my theme into through the ether, into the fabric of who I am, and I'll just say, have you thought about this? Have you done this? Blah 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 blah. And the person will say, oh wow, that was amazing insight that you had. That was great. I think a lot of it is the person instinctively already knows what I'm saying, or has the same ability to get that, but I think most people don't really look beyond the veil, so to speak. They're so busy, entertained. So many of life's challenges and obstacles, they haven't taken the time to really look into them own self spiritually. They have that same ability. They're just not practicing it. Or I think a lot of time what they would like is they would like to meet somebody who can address the issue in a way to where they can say, well, you know what, now that you've talked to me about this, now I feel like I have more permission to look into it myself. Sometimes people, for some reason or another, they just feel like they need permission to look into this stuff without, they don't give them own selves permission. They want to meet somebody who's familiar with it. Then it helps them to decide, okay, this is something I want to do. I want to get more into this. So, okay, so channeling. So that's one thing, I was doing channeling sessions for people about 2-3 weeks ago. I was talking to a lot of people over the phone, and I was doing channeling for them on the phone. A few times it came through really, really, really good, and the information the person was asking me to give them, I didn't know the answers. Me, who I am, I didn't know. I don't know the person, not deeply. I don't know what they're asking, but there was a couple questions where the person was asking me, and I used the channeling. I was on the phone like this, and like this, and I was meditating, and the person was asking me the questions, and I was giving them the questions based on the energy frequency that I was in, and then they were like, "Wow, like you pulled that through," and I was like, "Yeah, I pulled that through." There was one time where I was doing a channeling session, and I was connecting to a group of entities, a group of beings, reptilian beings in the Hercules constellation, and a really amazing thing happened. The energy switched, and it went to another reptilian being from the Draco constellation. I was connected to an entity within the 5th density of the Hercules constellation, a reptilian being, and then somehow another entity came in that was in the 4th density in the Draco constellation, and then it began answering the question towards the end of the channeling session, and I couldn't figure that out. I was like, how am I connecting to one being, and then another being comes in and jumps in on the line and gives its input energetically? Somehow the energy was being listened to. The other entities out throughout the cosmos were picking up on this energy exchange, and they were of the same frequency. This being was of an open-minded frequency. It was more being in balance, more being in free will and harmony. So it was able to come in and give its input based on the question that the person was asking me. And so for a second there, I kind of felt like, I was like, man, the line got debowed. Like somebody came in and picked up the phone. I was like, wait a minute, blah, 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 blah. That's exactly how it felt. But at the end of it, I realized a couple days later, it hit me like, wait a minute, this energy was being transmuted, and so somebody else who was of like mind was able to come in, listen, and so it was more. I looked at it as being more of a helpful type thing. I've been listening to different channelers for years, and so I never really paid too much. I always looked at channeling as being a tool I could use, an instrument. Like I could go to somebody, get a channeling session, and learn information, and then I realized, well, everybody can channel, and so then I started doing that. But now, the Americas, again, you have North America, or you say the United States of America, but basically the Americas is just one landmass, one continent, the Americas, including all the islands. And so when somebody says, where is America? Well, it's all of it. North America, Central America, and South America. I think indigenously, there are certain energies and different species of beings who exist throughout the Americas. I think there's certain locations like rocks, like large boulders, rocks, caves, certain sorts of things that store information more readily. If you're familiar with the Akashic Records, there are people that say if you can get your hands on some really ancient crystals, there's information stored in the crystals. The crystals can be millions of years old. And the earth has magnetically stored information within these crystals that if the right person can get these crystals and meditate on them, they can get some history of the earth that's really ancient. There's people out there who are trying to figure out exactly where Atlantis is, or where Atlantis was. And I think when the settlers, but when the settlers first started coming into the Americas, they started finding some unusual stuff, like the mounds with the giants that were here, the large skeletons. The indigenous people, the American Indians, a lot of times they would hold up their hand and say, how, like this. When they did that, when they hold up their hand, it was actually there specifically to see if there were 6 fingers. 6 fingers. So the indigenous people, they knew that there was a species here with 6 fingers. There were people walking around with 6 fingers at one time that they were humanoid, but they were of a different race. Some of these were giants. And the giants. You had like the larger giants. Some of them had like red hair. Others of them looked far different. This gets more into like also with the Olmec statues. You talk about the Olmec statues in Mexico and Latin America going down. A lot of people aren't really sure what the Olmec statues come from, what they represent. There's been people that said they found ancient Egyptian artifacts throughout the Americas. Assyrian documents, Assyrian texts and stuff like that. There's been a lot of strange stuff found. And people aren't really sure what it means. Like, where does this stuff come from? What does this stuff mean? And so, I think in a way, the Americas were a part of Atlantis at one time. But anytime somebody finds something that's strange, they say, I found Atlantis. I think Atlantis pretty much stretched much further. I think Atlantis was more like an empire that stretched a lot further. It wasn't one specific place, as people think. Then you have pyramids under the oceans and whatnot. And so it looks like the whole area of the Americas has like a really ancient, I don't even know the word to give it. But there's like a deep ancient history having to do with humans, the creation of humans, the lizard people, what all this means now. What does this mean for people now? People are at a point now to where you got all kinds of technology. You got computers. People are figuring things out scientifically, DNA, whatnot, that they weren't able to figure out definitely 100 years ago, especially 200-300 years ago, even 50 years ago. You didn't have any of this stuff. And so the spiritual practice of people is something that is starting to expand. People are starting to realize that they have abilities they didn't have before. They're starting to look at things and see different colors. I talked about this before, of color spectrums. The color spectrums are starting to change. Violet is about the highest color on the spectrum. A real light violet. That's a real high frequency color, about the highest frequency color, a light violet that people can experience seeing. But now the color spectrum is starting to change. People are starting to perceive more colors that they weren't able to perceive before. This has to do with humans going up through density. Humans right now are between third and fourth density, somewhere in there. And because consciousness is expanding, they're going up in density, and they're becoming more and more aware that they're able to do things they weren't able to do before. And so a lot of people look for answers, and they want assistance, they want help. And so that's sort of like what all my stuff is about, my free channeling stuff, is giving people insights to help them learn more about who they are, what they're doing on Earth. But they can figure it out for themselves. Like, I don't view myself as having any sort of answer that's better than anybody else's answer or higher. I don't think there's such thing as higher spiritual knowledge. I just think most people just need help. They just want assistance for whatever reason. And so that's one of the things I do. And it helps me, develop a psychic ability and whatnot. So, in cycles. Now, getting back to frequency, cycles. The body operates on a certain amount of cycles per second. I think most people's like 300 and something cycles. I can't come up with the exact number right now. But if they were to go beyond those cycles, they would appear to disappear. So when you talk about extraterrestrials are interdimensional terrestrial beings, people say they vanished, they disappeared. Or biblically, you talk about angels. They say they ascended. They were sitting there and they disappeared. Well, they raised their frequency. They were able to operate their cycles at a higher rate, so they appeared to disappear in front of everyday people. And there's different versions. We're constantly going through billions of parallel realities. And so there's numerous different versions of people. There's numerous different versions of this room that I'm in. There's multiple different versions of this room. There's versions of this room, where I'm wearing different color clothes. I'm doing different sorts of stuff. I'm talking about certain things. It's different realities. And so each second, your choice splits you into a different reality. A different reality, a different reality, a different reality. So if I was to go outside and take off walking somewhere, that would just instantly split me into a different reality. And therefore, the series of events in my life would change a little bit. Now, if I go out and I meet somebody, and they know all about the stuff I'm talking about, and then we decide to get together and form some company or something, bam, that just created a whole different, a whole different thing. As you raise up in frequency, you will experience time skippages too. So say I get up right now and I walk out of the house and I take off walking or whatever. If you raise up in frequency, sometimes you don't really feel, sometimes you might say, how did I get here so skippily? How did I get out of the door? I don't even remember walking from here to the front door, and I'm already out of the house. I'm already doing something. That's called a time skippage. Your frequency has been raised, and you're skipping time. So your experience of linear reality is going to be less and less and less and less. The idea of me reaching a destination like outside the front door, from here to there, that's two different realities. The reality of me sitting right here speaking, and the reality of me being outside the door. So if I say I want to be at that reality right now, I've already created that reality in my mind of me walking out the front door. Not the door behind me, but just, the front door of the house. So I get up and I walk out the front door. That's two different realities. Now the middle line between those two realities, I may skip through that. I may have very little memory of it. It doesn't mean that I'm losing memory or I forgot what happened. It just means that I'm operating on a frequency where I'm able to bounce through these realities, manifest through these realities without too much happening. And so the nature of things going on around you changes too. If you see somebody your experience of them may be different. So I see somebody I know, based on my frequency, based where I'm at in my reality, I'm going to create a certain version of them. So there's somebody out there who I go, say there's somebody out there who's always asking me for change. And I don't want to see, like, coin change. And I don't want to see, and I don't want to interact with that person. I feel it's a distraction, and this person knows it's a distraction, and their intentions aren't right. Because I'm not operating on that frequency, I may have less and less interaction with that person in my reality. And so it's not that that person doesn't exist or they're not there. My interaction with them won't be the same. They're there to cause from what I perceive, they're there to cause a distraction. It's of a negative co-creative experience. I don't want to co-create with that energy. That's not an energy that I want to co-create with. My energy is building in a different direction. Therefore, my experience with that individual is going to be a lot less and less and less. They won't be able to come into my reality as much. So if they have a negative intention towards me, and asking for change really isn't a negative intention, but say somebody has a negative intention towards you, it doesn't matter what their intention is. They can only build with you if they're of like frequency with you. So if I don't want to build with an individual on whatever level, I don't have to build with them on that level, because we can't build together because we're not of the same frequency. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And so that's one of the ways, people say, I'm having these problems at work. I keep dealing with these situations. I'm having this trouble. I want to get this certain degree in college, and some of the people I'm working with, I don't get along with them. Blah blah blah. Law of attraction. Your frequency is going to determine your experience of those people. It doesn't mean that those people won't be there, but it'll be a certain version of them, and your experience with them will be far different. A lot of times the people will have to up their frequency in order to deal with you. So say, for instance, there's somebody you don't get along with, and you start operating at a higher frequency. For this person to come more and more into your life, they have to up their frequency. And oftentimes that's something they're not willing to do. Somebody who has a negative intention or a negative purpose, if they up their frequency, they're going to have less negative intention, less negative purpose. Therefore, it's not going to be a co-creative type ordeal. It's not going to work. And so studying the laws laws of karma, laws of the universe and stuff, this will help you deal with the fabric of your reality better. So so there's certain principles. I think a lot of people inherently have these. A lot of people are aware of these abilities, are aware of these perspectives inherently. For some reason or another, they're just not expressing them. Again, they're not looking to. I guess they feel like they need more permission to do. I'm not sure how that works. One thing is excitement. Finding out what excites and finding out what excites you. So, say for instance, something excites me greatly, like I want to go learn yoga. Yoga excites me. So I have a list right here of a place that tells me where yoga openings are at. And so my intention is to learn yoga to better be able to express, my own self. That's a form of a self-expression, just like a martial art, just like Wing Chun. That's a form of self-expression. So I want to express this yoga. I want to learn more, more yoga. I want to learn more about prana energy. I want to learn hand mudras. These are things I want to become familiar with to better express my reality. So therefore, I'm going to take action. I'm going to take action on what I have to do to co-create with that. And so that is a form, that's a form of like building your reality. You know what you want to do, you're excited about it, so I'm going to go do it. I'm not excited about going to the bar and drinking liquor. That's not something I want to do. That's not an area I want to build with, so I'm not going to go. I'm not excited about going across town and finding somebody that I don't get along with and having an argument with them. That's not something that interests me at all. So I'm gonna go with the things I'm excited about, that excites me. And so that's the natural direction, is you're finding your excitement. Anything you're excited about is where you need to be. The people, the places, the things that you're not excited about, avoid those things. Avoid those things, or change your interaction with them. If you have to deal with somebody or something, you find something exciting within that ordeal, within that exchange, within that interaction. And so there's people, you know, and then excitement, again, there's people who say it's exciting for me to do things that others would perceive as wrong. There's people out there who have that, they have that feeling. They want to go out. There's people out there who love to go out and pick fights. There's people right now, it's 9:03, there's people right now, well, it's Sunday, the bars aren't open, but there's people right now, they'll go somewhere to a house party or something, and their purpose is to look to pick a fight, consciously or subconsciously, whether it be an argument or whatever. And so those people are looking to co-create with other people to match that frequency. They're saying, this is what excites me. Where am I going to go to do that? Well, chances are they're not going to go into a Buddhist meditation group and look to pick a fight. They're not going to go, chances are they're not going to go into a yoga center and look to pick a fight. They're going to go to an area where they know those types of people are going to be at, those types of energetic exchanges are prevalent. And so they're building and working on their reality. That's what excites them. That's their reality. And so this is sort of, and so as the density, now as we approach 2020, and as frequency and energy changes and density goes up, those types of realities split off from each other. So what you can perceive linearly to be 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever, on a linear perspective, realities were more close together. And certain people could come across certain individuals more and more and more and more. So if you didn't get along with a relative, or you didn't get along with somebody from your school or whatever, you may have been able to meet with them and have sort of like these little clashes from time to time more and more. But as the energy goes up and your frequency changes on the earth for everybody, those interactions are less common. You know, it just won't happen. The fabric of the universe will create synchronicities that won't allow these things to happen. That's just how the universe works. It'll mate in itself in a sort of way to create that sort of exchange. So, yeah. So as far as channeling goes, I'm open to give people. I would give a demonstration right now, but I think I'll come back in another video. I think I'll have somebody over the phone ask me questions, and then I'll give an energetic exchange and see what types of information we can pull out. But so this video is just a simple thing about, you know, channeling, the fabric of reality, the basics. If there's specific questions that people have, I'd be open to answer those, depending on what the questions are. I would say books and information people can go get. I would say the best thing for people to do is just to meditate, just to find their own, you know, go meditate, try to find their own balance. There's only so much there's all kinds of books out there on these subjects. There's all kinds of free document. You could spend, 10 years on the internet looking at free videos about how this stuff works and how to do it. But I think the best thing to do is just to meditate and drink as much water as possible. Water, when you're going through the different parallel realities and different dimensions around you, you can get burned out quickly. The higher frequency you go to, the more water you need. And so that's another thing. Is people should always drink more water anyway. But drinking water, that'll help you through these different energy states, these different frequencies. And paying attention to dreams. Before you go to sleep at night, tell yourself, I have an intention to connect with this information. I have an intention to have this experience. And through your dream state, you may have spiritual intervention. You may have specific dreams that show you certain things. You may have, you'd be surprised type of stuff can happen in a dream state. Now, between 12 and 3 a.m., that's when the pineal gland is most active. That's when it produces as much DMT as possible. And that right there is when people have the most wildest dreams, the most intense dreams. So I guess it would be interesting to set an alarm clock for about 2 o'clock in the morning if somebody has the free time within their week to do it, and wake themselves up at about 2 a.m. and see what types of things come to their mind. If you wake up and you get walking about your room and house, that'll be the time that you have the most paranormal activity, between 12 and 3 a.m. That's when people hear the most noises. People may see the most strange stuff. That doesn't mean that those things weren't already there, but that means you're more receptive of it. Your pineal gland, that's the crown chakra. That's the area of the brain that gives you the most insight. People who go out and drink ayahuasca, like, you know, in South America, you have people who drink ayahuasca and have the DMT, artificial, you know, DMT. They get the stimulant, they boost their energy more from it, and it will spike them. It will spike them up into the 5th density, it will spike them up into the 6th density, and people oftentimes will drink ayahuasca and say, you know, I've seen a spirit. I saw a spirit. Yeah, you saw a spirit. The spirit was already there. You just opened your consciousness up to perceiving it more. And kind of like in the, kind of like people who take other hallucinogens, like psychedelics, like the psilocybin mushrooms or LSD. They always talk about experiences of other beings, other spirits around them. This is an artificial way to do it. I'd never tell anybody, you know, go out and take some ayahuasca, or go out and I'm not a shaman and I'm not a doctor, so I don't have the ability to, I don't know how somebody else is going to react to one of these substances, so I can't give somebody advice to do something like that. But people do go out and use these artificial stimulants to boost their awareness, boost their perception of the reality around them. And they'll say things, they'll say strange stuff like, I looked at a color and heard certain noises, or I heard certain noises and saw certain colors. It's the mind. It's an explanation of their consciousness, and they're perceiving the reality different. I've never taken ayahuasca, so I wouldn't know how that experience really is. But I do know that's DMT, though. That's so around between 12 and 3 a.m. That's the time where you wake up. If you wake up around the time you have paranormal experiences, whatever, abductions. People have had experience with abductions around that time, between 12 and 3 a.m. And so that's a whole other subject. I think that's a subject that I'll leave for a much later date. But all right, so my people can email me on here, and I'm open to doing free channeling for people. My website is freechanneling.com. Freechanneling.com.